Hey guys, Skinny here, and today I want to go over my final thoughts and opinions and any changes I would make to the new killer, the Cenobite or Pinhead. This is coming straight off the PTB. This is before he hits live servers. I just want to go over the changes I would make to make him just a little bit stronger, and how I think of him as a killer in general. So starting with how he is as a killer in general, he's got everything that a killer needs in my opinion. He's got good anti-loot 1v1 potential with his chains. He's got good map pressure with his ability to teleport, so he's never lacking in being out of position. And he's got good game stall and slowdown with the chain hunt and finding the box to prevent that, because if they don't do that, the chains can interrupt their gen repair, so that slows them down. So he's got a good balance of everything you need in a killer to make them not oppressively strong that you can't beat them, but good enough that they're not going to struggle in any areas. I don't think there's any maps that are bad for him. I don't think there's any, well, maybe indoor maps potentially because of the chain, but that's about it. You know, and most killers suffer from indoor maps. But like, other than that, I would say that there's no weaknesses to him. He's genuinely got a solid kit to him that will allow him to be a comfortable top to mid tier killer. And add on to that the fact that he's also got a high enough skill ceiling that he's not just going to be someone you can pick up and instantly roll teams with and win. So he's got that nice balance of being difficult enough to learn that, you know, mostly you'll only see good people playing him, a nice kit to keep him comfortable in the tiers, an easy enough counterplay that survivors won't complain about him, because you can very easily dodge his chains even when they're automated by the chain hunt. You know, it's not that hard to go and solve the box. 9 times out of 10 you start solving it, they're going to teleport to you anyway, which still achieves the same result. It removes the chain hunt anyway. So, you know, he's one of the most solidly designed killers we've had in the game since, I think, maybe Blight, where there's just nothing wrong with them, and like they're perfectly fine as they are, apart from maybe a few tweaks here and there that need to be done just to sort of smooth out the power a little bit and smooth out the gameplay. But in my opinion, he's one of the most solid killers we've had in design in a while. That being said, like I've mentioned, there are a few tweaks and changes I would make to him just to sort of, you know, even out his power and make it a little bit nicer, just because some of the things I've noticed on the PTB do make him lose out in places to other killers. So the first thing I would make as a change is one of his add-ons, the Eerie Lament configuration, which, if you don't know, is this add-on makes it so that survivors cannot see the aura of the box outside of 16 meters whenever a chain hunt isn't active. So it's basically, think of it like rule set number 2 on Pig, where you can't see the auras of the jigsaw boxes until your trap activates. It's pretty much identical to that for Pinhead, where when the chains aren't automatically targeting survivors, you can't see the box outside of 16 meters. But when the chains activate, then you can map wide see the box, much like Freddy's alarm clocks. I think this should be base kit, because the problem I've noticed is it takes far too long for the chain hunt to activate anyway, considering the fact that from the moment the box spawns, all survivors can see the aura of the box and where it is map wide. So you'll never ever really get chain hunt active, because the survivors will always have the box in their possession pretty much. The way I found, I put this up in a video earlier in the week, is the best way to get chain hunt active is to find out who's got the box and just tunnel them, and then down them, because when you down them you get the box automatically, and then that binds everyone, activates a chain hunt and reveals them. But I think as good as that playstyle is, that isn't really healthy, because it encourages tunneling one person, and it's not reliable, because obviously if they pick up the box on the other side of the map and start instantly trying to solve it while you're hooking someone, you know, you're going to very rarely get value out of it. So again, the first thing I would change is make the Eerie Lament configuration a base kit add-on, just to make it so that chain hunt has a little bit more use to it, because most of the time without this add-on you're never going to really get chain hunt off, because they'll always have the box and they'll always deny it. I don't really have any ideas of how you could replace the Eerie add-on, like with something else, while this would become base kit, but I'm sure the devs can find something fun and unique to twist with his power. But yeah, first thing I do is make that add-on base kit. The second thing is his chains are far too easy to break out of and give you minimal reward for how hard they are to hit, in my opinion. The thing with the chains is, they are like Deathslinger, where they will break if they collide through an environment object. But you can also perform an interaction to start removing them. The problem I've noticed is 9 times out of 10, you'll hit someone with your chain, they'll get hit with 3 chains, they'll start removing 1, and then the other 2 will break on the environment, and all of that happens in the same second. And the problem is, they aren't consistently slowed down, because they're only slowed at their max slow when they've got all 3 chains in them, because for every chain removed, they get faster. So you're kind of put into this running down the clock scenario where you'll hit them with your chain, you'll come out of your power, by the time you've come out they've already got 1 chain out, you start moving, they've got another chain out, and by the time you've got to where they were, they've got all the chains out and they've got sprinting again. The problem with it is that survivors have full control over their movement while they're chained. They can't vault and they can't sprint as far as I'm aware, and but the slowdown isn't that like detrimental considering the fact that it gets faster every time they remove a chain anyway. So for an anti-loop power, 9 times out of 10 you'll hit them after like 20 minutes of missing it over and over because it's complex to hit. You'll finally get them, you'll think, oh, okay, now I'll just mind game and go around the loop and get them, and then they just walk around anyway, break the chain on the loop as you're walking around, and you're back to just running around for 20 minutes. So I would make it so that the chains can't break on the environment. The thing with that mechanic is it works on Deathslinger, because Deathslinger is pulling you towards him. He controls where the survivors go. They have no movement, or they have very minimal movement, and his chain bar takes much longer to break, so it works on Deathslinger. But on Pinhead, like I said, the survivors have full control over their movement, and the chains break in like 0.5 seconds. So I would remove the fact that they break on the environment, make it so that they only get removed by survivors pulling them out themselves. I would make it just a slight bit longer to break out the chains, although that might not be too necessary when you remove the environment breaking. I think that might be the bulk of the problem, but we'll see. And then I would also make it that there's a flat 5% movement speed penalty across any amount of chains in you. So rather than it being you're slowed more when you've got 3 than you are when you've got 1, make it so that as long as there is 1 chain in you, you move 5% slower. And keep the whole lack of sprinting thing, because this would add... It wouldn't be oppressively overpowered, because it would still be hard to hit the chains, and you know, the chains themselves are still quite easy to dodge even when they're chain hunting you. But when they do land, it's more rewarding at this point, because then you're almost guaranteed to hit. There are still a few places where they can break out of it. So yeah, I would make it, the chains don't break on the environment, they're slightly harder to get out of, and there's a flat 5% slowdown regardless of how many are in you, whether it's 3 or 1. The third and final sort of must-have change, I would say, is that Pinhead should be able to teleport to the box if a survivor is carrying it, but they're not solving it after like 30 seconds or so. We could maybe tweak that number. I think 30 might be a little bit too long. This is kind of just there as a sort of loophole similar to Twins when they were released, where survivors could just steal Victor, so you just wouldn't have a power for the whole game. It's kind of like that, where a survivor in theory could pick up the box and then just never solve it, and that would remove the chain hunt from the game. It would remove your ability to teleport. The only person that's getting chain hunt on them is the one dude carrying the box, and even then it's fairly easy to dodge that and it doesn't really slow the game down too much. So I would make it so that if they've not started to solve the box after 30 seconds or maybe less if it's a bit too much, you could just teleport to them anyway, and that way they can't steal your power and hold power hostage and prevent you from using it, kind of like Twins were with Victor. So that's the final sort of major change I would make to him that I'd say must have. There's another optional one I've come up with where Pinhead himself can't see the aura of the Lament box normally. I would make it so that maybe within an 8 to maybe 16 meter range he can, just to give you the chance to actually pick it up yourself a bit more rather than chasing the person who's got it. I would say this one's optional if they make the Eerie add-on base kit, because you wouldn't really need to find the box yourself if survivors are finding it a bit more frequently or a bit less frequently. I don't know, that one's kind of an up in the air one, because you don't want to give him it too frequently, because then chain hunt's basically always active. It's kind of like a bit of an old Freddy scenario where you're pretty much always in the dream and it's just a nightmare to go against. But yeah, that's kind of the basic breakdown of how I see Pinhead as a killer. Like I said, he's probably one of the most solidly designed killers we've had in a while. They need to keep up this streak of having killers that are able to have good anti-loop without you know, building into the shift W meta, because let's not fucking make the shift W meta any more oppressive than it is. But, you know, they need to have killers that have got good anti-loop, or at least good chase potential in 1v1, good map pressure, and good game slowdown, all sort of encompassed into a nice little box where it's not too strong and oppressive all in its merits, but it's enough to keep them nice flow. That's where they should keep most killer design going, and I think Pinhead solidly fits that mold. And with these tweaks that I've mentioned, it should help clean up his power, make it just that little bit nicer to use, that little bit more rewarding, and a little bit, you know, stronger. Not too much to tip him over the scales into overpowered, but enough to keep him in a comfortable A to B, maybe even S tier, somewhere around that area. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching. I'm probably going to leave the footage in the background now with you. I think there's 2 games running here, and I think I've talked for way less time than there is actually footage. So I'll just leave you with the footage so you can watch these matches. But I've had a lot of fun with this killer, and I think with these tweaks, he could be a solid top to mid tier killer. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the footage. His lunge is weird. Like, obviously every killer has the same, but his animation goes really weird with it. They break out of those far too quickly. You can't get out when you've got chains on you. And, so you can't break out when they've got chains on you, but there's a 5-second delay to it or something. I don't know, it's weird. Pretty much, they need to make it so it's a little bit slower to break out, because a lot of the problem is it's difficult to aim, and then when you do finally hit them, by the time you've come out of it, half the time it feels like they've already snapped out the chains anyway. So it's kind of weird.